All right, good morning, everybody. Another Cute for Teams session, Champions Using Teams Effectively, with your hosts, Ricardo and Stacy, and you, the most important person. Here to
right.
just, that's right, here to just geek out on Teams. We are Teams enthusiasts trying to use it in our different orgs. And so if this is your first time coming in here, maybe with a question, maybe just to hear us talk, feel free to come off mute or use chat and put any questions that you have in there. So yes, happy Friday to everyone. I don't know if anybody follows me on LinkedIn. I posted about talking about search today. But before I jump into that, I do want to I'll just give a little pause here for anybody. If you got any questions, you came in here specifically to ask, come off mute or put it in chat. Happy to take those first.
Seems like we have a report back from the field on the webinar outages or the odds behavior we've seen in webinars in the GCC here and there. So it looks like webinars is back and potentially with some new features, and that's exciting. There's also a mention of some odd things in live events, and I'd like to hear more about that. If there's more you can throw in the chat, Amanda, or if you want to come off mute and just fill us in with what you mean by odd things in or weird things in live events, that would be great. Oh, it looks like Amanda's typing. She must.
And I am trying to update my desktop client here to see if webinar is back for me as well.
Oh, cool. Good.
Again, my approach for that is always signing out, signing in, and then checking for updates. Checking and see if the sign out alone did it. No, not yet. Is there anybody in you said in chat? Is there anybody that hasn't seen webinar come back? I mean, yeah, webinar come back yet? Just wondering if it's 100%.
So far, no. It looks like we had 3 different customers confirm that it was back.
There we go.
And there's yours. Good.
I do like that, putting the meeting options right there in the. I that's one of my little gripes. Whenever Teams makes me go to a browser for something, I just think everything should stay in the client app. But anyway, let's see what else in the chat here. So
we got a little more detail on that live event. Odd behavior had to do with the presenter who they had to suggest her leaving the meeting and then calling her back in order to get her presenter to show up. So that was a good, definitely a good rule of thumb when you have any odd behavior like that, just to have the person rejoin the meeting. So I'm glad that that worked out and cleared that up, Amanda. If you continue to have, and I'll use your
word. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
So we asked her to first exit and rejoin, and that didn't work. It was the same result. We had to boot her and then call her into the meeting or to the live event manually. And then she showed up. We had other presenters show up just fine. And it was weird because it looked like she wasn't even in the event, but she could talk to us, and she didn't call in. She joined from Teams. She could see us. She could see our video, everything, but we couldn't see her. And she was going to be on camera. So there was no way for us to produce the event with her had we have not gotten her connected.
Right. And was she internal to your organization or external?
She was internal.
Just anecdotally, I was curious.
Right. Yeah. Well, we definitely know that there can be some issues when they're external.
Sure. Interesting. Well, I'm glad calling her in got that cleared up. So thank you for throwing that tip out there in case that happens to arise somewhere else. Remember that, folks, and give the old calling someone in a try.
The other question here that's worth talking about is the question of you know, an overview of, you know, what are the advantages and disadvantages, or maybe just a comparison of webinar versus regular meeting, and one could argue versus live event, right? Because here we do have three, and it might not be clear to everyone what these three, why are there three? I won't click this just yet, but you know, I would say, and everybody keep me honest here. So you got your typical standard Teams meeting. That's 1,000 people. That's all the bells and whistles, essentially. The expectation, all the attendees, everyone can come off mute and talk. It's a collaboration.
Yes.
The next level webinar is still a Teams meeting, but with features more centered around, this is mostly a presentation, and still a large amount of people. I don't think webinar increases the amount of people, so you still got 1,000. But I almost feel like webinar is a something that you do because you're expecting something closer to 1,000 versus the meeting you're expecting something closer to the smaller end, right? So it's the volume. But other than that, the same features for controlling that audience are there. And then the big piece being the registration as an additional feature on top of a standard meeting. How can I help automate the registration of people coming to the meeting? So it's a regular meeting with some features centered around this is going to be large or that kind of thing. And then the live event is this is going to be really large. So that's 10, 20, I don't know if 20,000 is still the number. It's at least 10,000. Technically, it could be 100,000 if you use stream technology, but that's big. That's no full engagement from my audience. Mostly me and my presenters presenting to a very large audience. They use Q&A to interact, and the entire process for the attendee, at least, is super simplified. I'm really coming here to view, maybe to chat in Q&A. A few more bells and whistles on the presenter and producer side, moving parts. And those moving parts are all centered around this production style presentation for this large audience. So that's like the 60-second version of me explaining the difference between these three options here in the drop down. Does that sound pretty accurate? Does that help, Glenn, your question? Would anybody add anything else that I might have missed there?
Yes, there's one thing that I would add for the Teams Live side when it comes to the Q&A. The word slips my mind right now, but every question that comes through to the presenters and producers first, and they can decide whether or
Moderated.
not. Right, thank you. That's the word. Moderated
Yeah.
Q&A, right?
Yeah.
Which is important because not every question is something that everyone needs to see.
Right. And yeah, and that brings up a good point of a gray line. It's like that's one feature that we've slid into the standard meeting, and I know there's some challenges on the GCC side for that, but there is that moderated Q&A now added to the normal Teams meeting. So you're bringing a feature that is very well equipped, maybe intended for that large audience, and bringing it into what might be a small audience, but you still want moderated Q&A. And we certainly have customers, and I know many of you are on the line, who want that Q&A feature in the standard Teams meeting as well. So yeah, we didn't bring over the 100,000 people into the normal Teams meeting, but we did bring a feature very important for a meeting with 100,000 people, and brought it over to the standard meeting / webinar.
Heather Majors has her hand up.
Yeah, so back to Amanda's thing that she was talking about, was seeing a little bit of interesting behavior with the presenter. I was wondering if that could possibly be tied to the feature that's under development where you have to explicitly accept recording, because if you don't, then you cannot come off mute, you cannot share your webcam, and you cannot share your video. So I was wondering if maybe that might be rolling out and if that was having an impact.
And that was, you said, explicitly accept what?
So there's a feature coming to Teams where right now when you record, you see that little banner at the top that says you are being recorded. There's an explicitly accept that you are being recorded. And if you do not accept it, because right now it's just a push banner saying, hey, here we are, we're recording, just so you know, but you're going to have to explicitly accept whether or not you want to be recorded. If you don't accept, like you just ignore the message or you say decline, you are then unable to unmute your mic, share your webcam, or share your screen. So I'm wondering if that is, with that being in development and or rolling out, if that could be part of what Amanda was seeing.
And the only thing I would say is if that's it, the person should have, saw the message. If they didn't, if the message is too subtle, then that's not good, right? So, yeah, or could you have missed that message? I don't know. But yeah, I agree. If that's going to push you automatically into attendee mode, then that certainly is going to be a challenge for anybody coming in as a presenter.
So I just wanted to throw that out there as a thing to look for. It may not be fully rolled out yet, so therefore that may not be exactly what Amanda was experiencing. But in the future, I can see that causing confusion when people are used to, like, oh, this is a banner, I can ignore it, and they don't realize that they now have to take action upon that banner.
Yeah, because I don't think I've seen that banner yet. Stacey, I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, even internally. So, and certainly most of our meetings are recorded. So yeah, I don't know what that looks like, but to your point, I would expect it to be very in my face, can't ignore it, given what it's asking me, So hopefully that's the case.
And just to Amanda's other thing, Q&A, I happen to know this, Amanda, it is dependent on Yammer, which is why we don't have it in our organization either.
Yeah, that was the GCC challenge I was kind of referring to. And in fact, I don't know if I've even tried in this GCC tenant to, no, that would involve a lot of setup on my end to get that all enabled. I could certainly show it on the commercial side. But yeah, good stuff. So yeah, so it's good though. We got that back. Webinar features back, or button, I should say. Good deal. What else is going on out there? I don't know if anybody wants to see that Q&A feature or if that's just a tease, given that most of you probably aren't using Yammer, but. I think I will switch over here for a sec. Let me go do this. Over in a commercial tenant now. Just to, I think it is. Is it? I thought it was. Am I in the wrong place here for this? Because it's not specific to a webinar. Can't remember how to get to that chat. Yeah, I can't remember. It's escaping me how I get to the Q&A feature here.
I thought it was just under the apps. So
that's what I thought too.
Which tenant are you in right now?
This is a commercial tenant.
Oh, okay.
Just to share, it was moved. It used to be under the apps, but what it's doing now is it's automatically pinning it to the top of the meeting invite. Every meeting invite you create, it has Q&A on the top of it. And the interesting thing in the GCC environment is even though we see it there, you click on the button, it doesn't do anything. It just spins and spins and doesn't go anywhere because it can't connect to Yammer.
And I wonder if it's waiting for me to get another person in here. Is it that smart to know that I wouldn't Q&A with myself? I mean, they don't know me. I talk to myself all the time, but
it could be. Do you want to invite?
Let me see. Let's go here and this guy. Try to bring them in. People, so I'm going to bring in the admin. This should be calling this user. Admin, why isn't it calling? This is the right admin, right? Yep, admin, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why it's not calling. Well, I'll figure that one out some other time. Yeah, it's calling. It's just not picking up. Oh, well. Figure that one out. What else are we missing? And what am I missing in chat? Okay, so. All right, we talked about all of those things. All right. Let me, yeah, something's up with the calling because it shouldn't even call that long. It's weird. Oh, there we go. Just gonna end that. So briefly, we have brought up search maybe a couple sessions ago. And something happened to me this week. I can't remember what it was, but it made me think about search. Oh, what it was is I was using M365 search actually to find an email, which was an interesting change for me, right? It was only because I was in a meeting where someone made the suggestion that the M365 search finds emails better than Outlook did. And I thought that was like blasphemy. But then I started, trying it out. And so that's kind of what I want to show here. So, I mean, we're sitting here in Teams. We know that we have search in Teams at the top here, and that is searching team-specific content. But we do have our ability to filter that to, maybe it's an actual message we're looking for versus a file with the word mark in it, right? But it's doing all of that, as well as additional features here about, okay, it's a message. Who do I want it? I'm looking for something from a specific person, maybe in a specific team or channel. And then the nice thing being that once I find it, like is to say this is it, it's taking me directly to that chat. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of this, format of the search results. I know they are working on a better fidelity, where it brings me truly into the actual thread, but it does get me there, right? The other way to search, though, is your, office.com, portal.office.com, however you get there. At the top is a search box that's searching all of Microsoft 365. And as you see, it's the same search. I am finding content from all over, but it's including messages. So there is a message tab here that is finding Teams messages as well as Outlook emails related to this, to my search for Mark. The reason I started here in commercial is because if I jump back over to my GCC tenant, you will notice the lack of that messages tab. And in fact, if you're really watching close, there was a Power BI tab as well over on commercial. The fortunate news, as I went to the roadmap to say, why is that there? Search messages, you will see that March 2023 is when we're expecting to see that messages filter, I guess, or they call it a vertical in the search experience. So not much longer before you get that. So that is coming. Okay, but as of right now, you got everything except that messages, and then the Power BI one as well. Let me jump back over again real quick just to continue with that. So as you can see here, this is a chat. I click that, I'm in the browser. It's taking me over to the exact message where that's located, which I just think is really cool. And again, part of why I wanted to have this talk is because in one of the tests I did, I think that Teams, while they both found the same old message post that I searched for, Teams actually didn't take me exactly there. It took me to the general area, but didn't take me exactly there. But the search here took me to the exact one. And so then suddenly I realized that person that made that statement was a wise sage, and indeed, because already I was starting to see some better experience from this, Microsoft 365 search than even Teams. And then his comment about email. So here's an email with Mark8. I click that. It's going to use Outlook on the web, but it's going to bring up that specific email message. Now, again, it's not taking me into my inbox and kind of scrolling down to that message. It's opening that message on its own. In theory, what the resulting URL might be a unique URL to that email. I can actually try to confirm that. And yeah, in theory, this is the unique URL to that email itself, and that's what the search results took me to. So if I try another one, sending me to that exact one. Sometimes I find this, obviously it's useful to get to exactly where you want to go, but a lot of times I need the context of the replies and stuff. And so, but then of course I could go search for this, I know the date and all of that. So anyway, messages is finding, chats, emails, and I didn't go further to see if this included, like Yammer or Viva Engage posts as well. That would be something. And the last thing I'll say about this here is I believe this is a extensible area. So if you have some kind of line of business app that you want to search for, good old SharePoint has always had its search results pages be extensible. So you could add the, Contoso, ABC system as another search filter, or scope, really search scope, and have your results, scope from that perspective too. So cool things coming natively. And if you want to take this further, get with your devs, your SharePoint devs, I guess, and take it even further. But that's your search. And so then the question becomes, where do I start my search? For us Teams fanatics, I think it's cool. I think it's good to start in Teams because it's likely the work you do these days, having been a Teams fanatic for years, probably in Teams. But with one more, click going out to, the portal, you will get a slightly more extensive search that now and soon for GCC will include your email messages as well. So this is a big deal. A few years back, I had actually had a series of 6 or 7 bookmarks that represented all the search boxes I should go to if I wanted to search across everything. So the fact that this is getting rid of those bookmarks for me and bringing it all in one place is a pretty big deal. Any thoughts or comments or experiences about search from anybody? Is this groundbreaking or?
Ricardo, this is Tim. I've got a couple questions. Number one, I'm not seeing that in the message center for GCC, and the roadmap doesn't say GCC. So
this is the one I'm looking at, which is
okay.
117.389.
Okay, I'll take a look again. Yeah.
I did a search and messages in my.
Okay, I did search and it didn't show. It showed the other one.
Right. And I think these two are related. It would seem coherent workplace search experience across. Maybe not. I think this is the specific one about this message vertical coming, but they're both they're both March 2023. So it feels like search is going to get an upgrade for GCC here in March between the two of these.
The other thing I'd say, we've been looking into search quite a bit. Just another feature, it kind of just showed up for us. It was, I know you can go in and you can set acronyms, right? Obviously in the government, acronyms always tend to be. But while we were looking at how we might want to test that, an automated acronym feature just showed up. It started finding acronyms based on documents. So if you had like put parent something, you know, behind a term, it was finding that term, showing it as an acronym, and then actually referencing the document, a link to the document that it found it in. It's kind of a neat feature.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like Viva Topics, but I don't know if that
we don't have any Viva turned on.
Yeah. Oh, and then is that SharePoint syntax?
No,
not that.
No, we don't have any.
Okay.
So anyway, it's a nice feature. Now, the one thing we did, and we're testing right now, we had somebody in the State Department has been keeping a list of acronyms. Believe it or not, it's like 50 pages long. So we took that document, we loaded it in a SharePoint site that was available, you know, enterprise-wide, and we want to see if it'll find that document. It'd be an easy way to feed all the acronyms in.
Nice.
So far, it hasn't really started working that way, so we'll see.
Yeah. So I will say, I think what you described is the heart or the principle behind Viva Topics. So while that may not be launched yet in GCC, that is the goal, I think, and that's what I see when I click around on hashtags and things like that, taking me to a whole page dedicated to that term, relevant SMEs about that term, relevant documents, that kind of thing. I think that's the concept of topics, Viva Topics.
Okay. Anyway, just some things we're doing on search. We're finding it, much better than what it has been in the past. Like you said, certainly at least all coming into a single location. Yeah.
The last thing I meant to say about search in general is both the commercial and GCC have a news tab. And to me, what this is SharePoint intranet pages where you're posting a news article. I don't know if I can quickly show that, but to me, it's an underrated or underutilized feature many times. I don't necessarily see a lot of people spending as much time on their intranet publishing per se, but this might help in that to know that it's got its own native scope for that means that if you are producing SharePoint news pages, you'll know that you're going to have your own scope natively for those, right? And there is some integration in Teams for when those news pages are integrated as well. So that's something to think about. Lastly, from an accessibility feature, you'll see this images piece as well. This should be a reminder for us to start doing more tagging and editing of the metadata of our images. Since you've got a native images scope, well, let me put my, some more information or metadata about the image to make sure it shows in search for my users. And oh, by the way, then that's also helping from an accessibility perspective as people are using readers that are going to read the descriptions of those images to them. So you get a lot of benefits there. So a lot of things to think about when you're considering the search experience of your end users. So hope that was helpful. Any last questions or comments in our last few seconds here? Awesome. All right. Well, again, thanks for joining us again. See you next week, and we hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.